Hi, I'm back with a new hat. This hat is from Frank's Diner in Schulenburg, Texas. I've got a t-shirt too. Every time we go to Houston, we got to stop at Frank's. They're no longer in business. They decided to retire and they sold the business, or whatever. They're no longer in business, so it's too bad, because Frank's was a kind of a cool diner. So let's run through. Let's get a Pro Tools session up, right? So in Audio 2, of course, I had a Audio 2 template, right? So let me run through. I know this is maybe a little boring for you guys. It's a review for a lot of you guys, but whatever. I want to make sure you guys can use your Pro Tools, because I'm sure you're bored out of your mind, and you got nothing better to do than write music and record stuff and do a bunch of other things, right? With your Pro Tools system. Take advantage of the free license that you've got for a while. So let's start from the beginning, right? So I'm going to open up Pro Tools, and sure enough, there it is right there. I'm going to start, I'm going to create new. So I go to File, I say Create New, all right? And let's take a look here. I'm going to call it IDI, good or IDI. There we go. And we're gonna let's take a look at some of the stuff here. So which one you pick here doesn't really matter anymore. It used to matter a lot, but it doesn't matter anymore. All right. So, but there's some advantages. There's some advantage to picking wave when you get more advanced, right? Over here, I've got 44.1 kilohertz. This is the sample rate. Again, maybe you know, maybe you don't know. I don't know if you guys went over that in Audio 1, but this is just the sample rate. The higher the sample rate, the better the sound is how it comes out, right? Now mine, I can't change it because I'm using this thing called loopback, right? And that's how I get my audio into the video thing that you're seeing, right? So I can't change it here. You will be able to change it. You'll click on that and you'll get a bunch of choices. You'll get 44.1 kilohertz sample rate. You'll get 48 kilohertz, 88.2, 96, 176.4, and 192. More than likely. Again, it depends on your sound card, your interface, but most of them nowadays, pretty much all of them will do up to 192, right? Here we go. 24-bit, 60. So the higher, the better is what it comes down to, right? I'm going to leave it 24-bit. 32-bit float is, well, whatever. Use 32-bit float. That your plugins will. I can explain it some other time. But your plugins will sound better if you leave it at 32-bit float. I/O settings, right? This is, if you're watching this after the configuration. This is, again, right? There we go. There's the loopback setting. That's the one I did before, right? This is when I was showing you guys the configuration setting. So Scarlett, I'll just use Scarlett, right? Or, well, let's loopback. There we go, right? Here's what's really important. You got to use the one that works with your system, right? Almost all of these, I don't know why they put them in there, and of course we can get rid of them, but the only ones on this computer, the only ones that are going to work are loopback and Scarlett. All that other stuff isn't going to work, right? Literally, if I clicked one of these, I wouldn't be able to get any audio in or out of my computer, right? So make sure you choose the appropriate one. Right? If you use stereo mix, that would also work. For the most part, it would work, right? Never use last used, because you never know. This is especially true at the studios at ACC. You never want to use last used because you don't know what somebody was using before you, right? What kind of mistakes they made. If they made a mistake and you use last used, well, guess what? You're making the same mistake they did, right? So choose the one that is appropriate, right? And I've got prompt for location, right? So whenever I make this session, it's going to ask me, hey, where do you want to put this, right? Don't just randomly put it anywhere, because then you'll lose it, right? So you want to know where it's going, right? Make sure you know. Now, ideally, you're going to use an external hard drive, right? Like I'm doing. I'll show you here in a second. But you want to avoid recording on your system drive if at all possible, right? But, well, there you go. And what I'm going to do is say create. Now it's going to say, hey, Dan, where do you want to put that, right? Well, on the Mac, right? And it's kind of like Windows. It's not really that different. Over here on the left is all the places I can put my stuff, right? These are all the devices and folders and things, right? I could put on the desktop. I could put in the applications folder, the documents folder, blah, 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 blah. I suggest not any of those. Down here, right, I've got 3 hard drives, external hard drives plugged into my computer. I've got this LaCie, session backups, and I got media files, right? This is where I'm keeping all my stuff. Remote disk is like the cloud or a network drive or something like that, right? I'm gonna pick this one here. I'm gonna put it in the COVID folder. I'm gonna stick it in there. There we go. Sounds good to me. Let's go save. And there it is. I'm gonna get rid of this. So here's my Pro Tools session ready to go. Again, what I'm going to want to do is, just like in the config, I'm going to make sure that my playback engine is correct. And there's no reason for me to think that it's changed, so that looks good. And make sure my IO, well, I know my IO setup is good because I just set it. So there we go, we're ready to go. So let's see here, let's make 4 tracks. There's 4 tracks. All right, let's take a look here. I'm going to go to my mix window. That was Command equals, right? Or go to the window menu and I click on mix and it pops up, right? These are my ins and outs right here, right? Now, if I were recording a band at ACC with the Orion as the interface, I could have 32 individual mics plugged into the Orion, right? From the Neve. And if I wanted each mic to go to its own track in Pro Tools, which you probably would want to do, then this would look like, it would say in 1 for track 1, it would say in 2 for track 2, in 3 for track 3, and in 4 from track 4, and on and on and on and on, right? That's how that would work, right? If I wanted to mix on the Neve, right, using the faders of the Neve, this would say out 1, this would say out 2, this is out 3. The way that maps up, you guys kind of remember, out 1 of Pro Tools shows up in the monitor section of the Neve, shows up on fader 1. Out 2 from Pro Tools shows up on the second fader on the Neve, and so on and so forth, right? That way I'm mixing on the console. Each track in Pro Tools has its own discrete output that maps out to the Neve fader, right? But since I don't have a mixer, and I'm assuming you don't either, I'm saying out 1 and 2, and what that means is, in order for Pro Tools to send everything out of outputs 1 being the left speaker and 2 being the right speaker, in order for it to send all of those tracks out of 1 and 2, it has to mix them all together before it sends them all out, right? So this means I'm mixing in the computer itself, right? Anyway, moving on here, right? So you can say this. So what I'm going to end up doing is recording a bunch of stuff with my microphone. So I don't need to, so I'm going to record on track 1, right? My input is coming in 1, right? And so over here, I'm going to say 1, right? And over here 1, and then, yeah, there we go. So all of them are going to be 1, right? That way I don't have to keep unplugging my microphone, right? I don't have to patch. This is your patch bay, actually. This is kind of your patch bay. Man, I wish you guys could be, oof, man, you need some patch bay work, right? But whatever. Here we are. So there we go. Let's take a look here, right? This up here is the toolbar, right? And you know what? Let me record a bunch of stuff here. Let's record all this stuff here. Ooh. Sorry. I'm recording some stuff. Probably going to sound really bizarre, but that's okay. We don't need to listen. Right? In fact, let's do that. I just wanted to show you a few things here. So this is the what they call like the toolbar, right? And there's a bunch of stuff up there. Some of it we're going to talk about. Some of it we'll kind of wait till later, right? So this is the transport, play, stop, record. Don't hit this button. That's meaning it's online. It's waiting for an external source, like when we record, for example, when we do the Austin City Limits Music Festival or some other thing like that, where there's a video truck. Audio is always slaved to the video truck, and if I click that, what it's waiting for is for somebody to push play or record from the video truck, and when that happens, then my Pro Tools system will go. Right? Anyway, don't do that. Right? We'll come back and talk about this a little in a second here. Right? This is my counter, right? And this counter can be any number of different things. Bars and beats if you're writing songs or making a beat or something. Minutes and seconds is for general stuff. Time code and feet and frames, both of those are for movies, right? And if you're writing music for movies or you're editing, doing audio, putting in sound effects for movies. Samples, rarely use it, right? But so there we go. So I'm in minutes and seconds. I'll just leave it in minutes and seconds. And notice if I come over here and highlight something, right, it kind of shows me where I started my selection and where I ended my selection. So that blue thing right there is the first one, and that blue thing there is the second one. And that's the length of my selection, right? This comes in handy, right? If you need to know how long something is, right? Comes in very handy. I actually end up using it quite a bit. These are my tools. You guys probably know, again, this is, let's go here. This is a selector tool, right? It makes a selection, right? This is a grabber tool. It moves things around, right? This is the trimmer tool. It trims. Yeah, pretty easy. And now you don't have to do it that way. If you end up wanting to do it this way, clicking here and highlighting and deleting, you can do that. But it's 2 movements versus 1, right? This is the magnifying glass. This is the zoom tool. If I click on it, it zooms in like that. Or I can draw a box around that and it zooms all that in like that. Right? How do I zoom out? Well, using the tool. If I hold Option down or Alt on Windows, it's the backwards key. So Alt or Option is the reverse, right? Right. There we go. Zoom in, zoom out. All right. Zoom in, draw in a box, zoom out. All right. So that's what that is right there. This is the scrubber tool. Oops. Do this here. You can kind of hear it scrubbing. All right. And this here is the now, why would you use the scrubber? Well, most people are using the scrubber nowadays for video. This is kind of goes back to the analog tape days where trying to find an edit spot, you would rock the reels back and forth. You would scrub them, as they would call it. So that's what this is right here. This is not used so much in Pro Tools. It's almost always for scrubbing video instead. But there we go. All right. And then the pencil tool is for drawing things like automation or fades, or you can draw any number of different things. That's for some other time, right? Check this out. This little box here is called Zoom Toggle. Look what happens when I click on this. I'm going to do this. Right. Let's say I want to look at that and see kind of what that is. I want to see it a little bit better. I'm going to hit Zoom Toggle. Look what happens. Woohoo! Right, so that way I don't have to zoom in and change the size of my track. It just automatically does that, right? Just like that. It's pretty cool. Zoom Toggle. It's good for editing. I can even do this. That little bitty snippet there. Zoom Toggle. Woohoo! Right. This is zoom in. This guy right here. And this over here on the opposite side is zoom out. Now you might be thinking, well, what's the difference between that zoom in and the magnifying glass zoom in? Well, the magnifying glass zooms in where you click, like that. This zooms in where the cursor is, right? That's the difference, right? And you're thinking, well, who cares? Well, because maybe you've got something selected and you want to keep that selected, right? But you need to come over here and look at something to see if it's correct. So you're going to look at that. Ah, yes, right? But that is still selected, right? Otherwise, you'd end up undoing your selection. So that's why they have two of them, right? Zoom out in, over here, zoom out. This is make the waveform look bigger. It doesn't make it louder, just makes it look bigger, right? And they're smaller. And these things down here are zoom presets, which I never use. Here's a Belinda. Belinda the cat. Belinda, come say hi. Anyway, right? Let's take a look at this thing right here. Our modes. Again, this might be review for you folks, but right, let's take a look here. Slip means I can move this anywhere I want to. I can freely do whatever, right? That's what slip means. Shuffle, on the other hand, means I can only move this next to something else, like that, right? It'll only, no matter what I try to do, it'll only go next to something else. This is handy when you want things to bump up next to each other, right? Right? Oh, watch this. Check out what happens if I'm in slip mode and I highlight something and I delete it, like this area here in between, there's going to be a space left. But in shuffle mode, if I select that and then make it goes like that. There we go. Kind of dark for that bird to be making all that noise. Anyway, right? So it gets rid of the space. Right? That's great when you're doing dialogue editing, right? It's really good. All right, so grid mode means you can only move something to the grid, right? And you might say, well, what is the grid? The grid is defined here, right? The grid could be any number of different things. It could be minutes and seconds, time code for movies, frames. It could be all of this stuff, right? It could be bars and beats. So I'm going to make it bars and beats. And that blue line is the grid. And when I pick this up, it'll only move to the grid and nowhere else in between, right? And that's great for editing things if you want to keep them in time and that sort of stuff, right? So there you go. That is grid mode. And then finally, spot mode. Spot mode, if somebody has already figured out where everything needs to go and they've got the times written down, if I come over here and try to move that, it's going to ask me, hey, where do you want to put it? And I can type in a number, I don't know, 05, I don't know. I don't know where did it go? Oh, there it is, way over there. At 5, there you go, really far away, right? So that's what spot mode. More than likely, you're not going to be using that very much when you're doing music. This is mostly like a movie thing, video stuff, right? There we go. Oops. There we go. Put it in slip. Let's bring this way back here. There we go. All right. A couple other things. Check this out. Let me think here would be the best way to do this. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll mute this so you don't have to listen to that craziness. All right. Look at here. I'm going to show you something. Let me put this over here like this. Check this out. These guys down here are really, really important, right? Again, I'm showing you. So here's the thing, man. When I first started using Pro Tools, I started using it like in 1990, to when it first got released, and nobody knew anything about it. Not my boss, the studio manager, the chief engineer. No one knew anything about it. We were all learning at the same time. There was no one to tell me, hey, this is what you're doing wrong, or oh, you go to that menu, or that does this other thing. Right? Excuse me. So there's a lot of hair pulling out and a lot of cursing, and I just didn't know how to do stuff, right? So I'm giving you this. I'm telling you how to get around all this stuff. Ooh, sorry. I'm telling you how to get around all this stuff. So this is here was something that used to drive me crazy. I could never figure out what it was. This button links. You want this button to be on almost all the time. This button links this thing, what they call the timeline, where the time is, and the edit window down here, right? So watch this. When I click this, it plays. If I click here, it plays that right there. If I click here, it's also reflected up there, right? They're linked together, right? Now, sometimes if it doesn't, there's reasons for it. I'm not going to get into it right now. Again, I just want you guys to get going. Sometimes you don't want that on there. You don't want them linked. Sometimes you want this to play. This is what's playing right here, right? Oops, right? Let me do this here. Hold on a second here. Right? Sometimes you want this, and you can do editing here. Right? And it'll play. Right? That's the kind of thing, right? So sometimes, again, you're going to end up at some point, you're going to go, why? You're going to want to play from here. Let's say you want this thing to play, and you push play, and it doesn't play. This thing over here plays, right? Not that, right? Well, it's because you didn't link that one. So don't forget, this is like a big one. This is like one of those yelling at the computer kind of moments. Click that. So that way they're linked, right? 99% of the time, that's going to be turned on. Here's another gotcha. This guy right here, right? Watch what happens when I click. Right? So I'm going to click here, right? And that is turned off. I push play, stop, and then when I push play again, right? See what's going on here? As soon as I push stop, the cursor goes back to where it began. Yeah? If I turn that on, this is called insertion follows playback. If I turn that on, what happens is the cursor doesn't go back to the beginning. It stays where it is and plays from where it is, like that. Right? So if somebody's going to ask me which is the best way to have it, well, it kind of depends on what you're doing, right? I'll let you decide. It's about 50-50 for me. 50% of the time, I've got it on. 50% of the time, I've got it off, right? So those are the two yelling at your computer buttons, right? All right. Okay, I think that's good. We'll come back with some more stuff here in a sec.